All right. Doug, do you want to get started?
Sure. Uh, my name is Doug Adams, and I'm co-hosting this with Gene. I've been a member of Copley Society for 7 years, I think. I've been juried into a number of exhibitions at the Copley Society and have had both group and one-person exhibitions in other galleries in Boston and in New York, and 3 in Asia. Uh, I'm a uh, photographer that focuses primarily on uh, social documentary, uh, and I have shot in about 40 countries. Um, I began to use Instagram towards the end of 2017. Uh, it has been an incredible learning experience for me. Uh, I have about 10,000 followers, uh, and I've learned a lot in going from a few to uh, what is kind of a threshold for me right now. So I think I've learned a lot. I think I have something to share, and I look forward to the next hour. Gene?
Okay. So I have been, I discovered, I'm a pastel artist, and I just got a message that my internet connection is unstable. So let's keep our fingers crossed that hopefully you all can continue to hear me. I have been on Instagram for about, I guess about a year, maybe 2 years, something like that. And are you all able to hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Uh, so it's been about 2 years, and I started out with, I started paying attention to Instagram when I was about maybe 400 followers, and I didn't really know what it was. And I started to take a little bit more interest in it because I noticed that there was more and more artists that were posting work on Instagram. It seemed to be, wait a minute. It seemed to be more and more popular a couple of years ago, and it just started to become more powerful. And so I started to put more energy into it, and within about just over a year, my following went from 400 to about 10,000. And then over the next year and a half, it's grown to about 31,000 at this point. And right now it's going up like, I don't know, 50 to 100 a day, depending on how much attention I spend on it. And so the reason that we are getting together here now is that it seems that this is really, Instagram to me is the most powerful tool for marketing art. I have found it to be really useful, really powerful for artists, for galleries. It's a great way to connect with other artists, particularly right now, because we're all stuck being distanced from each other, and there's no other really good way to connect. And also Instagram is the most visual of all of the social media platforms. To me, it's different than Facebook. It's a little bit more visual. There, you don't have any of the extra editorial commentary that you have on Facebook, or at least nowhere near as much of it. There's not as much noise. So it's all visual, and it's just so powerful and effective for artists. And there's so many people just looking at their phones so often. It's just incredibly powerful. So why not take advantage of it? And I have found it a great source of inspiration too, because I can look up all these artists that I'm admiring and get real time kind of, here's what I'm working on today. Here's a peek at my studio. This is my work in progress. So it's a great way to discover new artists and to learn more about the ones that I've admired. So it's also a great way to develop more personal relationships with your students, with your collectors. It's a great way. It's just kind of informal, and it's easier than email. It's quicker. It's faster than anything else. And yes, in addition to finding other artists, getting inspired, connecting with people, you can also sell artwork. on Instagram, and you can drive people to your website and drive people to your galleries. So it's definitely worth checking it out and getting to know it even better. So a couple of things that I thought we could go through today. I mean, I'm not any kind of expert. I've just been working, I've been doing it. And to me, it just kind of became a game. And, oh, how can I make this even better? And what can I do? And what's going to happen if I do this or do that? It's just kind of fun to see what posts people react to and what posts people don't. I have found that if I post anything other than artwork, nobody looks at it. Like if I post a picture of me and my fiance climbing a mountain, I get a couple of interested people, but nobody really wants to see my personal life. Nobody cares. They just want artwork, which is fine.
On the other hand, Jean, when you post yourself with your work,
yes,
it's incredibly powerful.
That's
and I learned that about a year ago when I was living with a tribe in southern Ethiopia, and I had my guide taking pictures of me photographing the tribal people. And I thought one day, well, I'm going to post one of these images of me with some of the people I was photographing. I got 1,300 likes within about 6 hours. I was shocked, but I learned something about making it personal.
Yeah, that's such a good point. I'm really glad you brought that up. It's that personal connection. People want to see you and see what you're doing. They just don't really necessarily want to know about your personal life, but they want to see what you're doing, what your art life is like. By the way, I want to point out to everybody, there is, if you haven't seen it yet, there's a chat function down on the bottom bar here. You can, if you have questions, we're going to leave time for questions at the end. We're going to be talking for like 45 minutes. Then you're going to, if you have any questions and want to write any notes, Paige is going to be looking through the comments and questions, and then be posing those questions, or we can pose those questions in the discussion time at the end. There's also a document there, which is basically the talking points that I'm using right now. So you've got a lot of this information written down there. There's also in that document that's on the chat, you can download that, and it's got some links to other really useful articles. So you may want to download that if you can find it there. I think Paige can email that out to everybody who's on this email list as well, if you can't get it there.
Will that be up?
Probably get it.
How long will that be accessible?
How long will that be accessible? That's right now, it's accessible on the chat. You can just download it right now. Otherwise, I think when the recording is produced, we can send that that as an attachment.
Yep, I can send the file as soon as the meeting's over.
Okay.
That would be great.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so just moving along, a couple of steps that you want to take now if you haven't yet done it. First of all, you want to make your Instagram account a business account, or you want to create a separate business account if you do want to post those personal things. With a business account, what I like about it is you can automatically connect it to your business Facebook page, they used to call it a fan page, so that every time I post to my Instagram,
We lost you.
My Facebook page, so I don't have to make separate ones. You lost me? Oops. Okay. Am I back? Okay. So because it's a business page, every time I make a post to my Instagram, it automatically posts to my Facebook page. So I don't have to put separate posts. And they are separate audiences. I get different people responding to each one. So it's worth having the business page just for that double posting.
I think just an important point in terms of linking. I think it's important to have your Instagram account linked to Facebook and to your website, so that you can access all three
yes.
with one visit to one or the other of the platforms.
Exactly. As soon as you turn it into a business account, you have a place in your profile where you can add a link to your website, and also maybe an email address if you want, so people can contact you. The other thing you can do once you reach, and this goes into having stories, but once you reach, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but when you get up to where you have 10,000 followers, you can actually add links in your Instagram stories. that's one reason why you want to get enough followers, because Instagram doesn't normally allow you to put links anywhere except in your profile. So in that little profile section at the top, it's the only place that you normally can do a link. I will sometimes change that link if I'm having a special sale on my website or something, and I want someone to go to something specific. I'll say, check the link in my website, or check the link in my profile, and I'll change it to something. But now that I can use stories for that, that's a lot more flexible, and I can just add a link in stories, which I'll show you how to do that. I'm gonna share my Instagram in a few minutes. Other things steps you should take right now: just explore and familiarize yourself. Pick a couple of people who you think are doing Instagram really well, and shamelessly copy what they're doing. Just say, okay, look at the kind of, and what I mean by that is you imitate the kinds of posts they're doing, the kind of, just pay attention to what they're doing well, and the kinds of posts they're doing, the kinds of things they're sharing about their artistic life, and also look at the kinds of hashtags they're using. And because the hashtags are really a key. If you're looking to grow your following, your hashtags are really a key. Because what hashtags do, people actually follow different hashtags. If someone is interested, you may have already noticed this, if someone is interested in pastels, for instance, it may be what I will go through my Instagram and like a bunch of different photos, and then Instagram will say, hey, you've liked 10 things with hashtag pastels this week. Would you like to follow that hashtag? And I'll say, sure, yes. And then every time something is hashtagged with pastels, it will show it to me. So people will find your work if you've decided to follow specific hashtags. So if you start thinking like your collectors and hashtag certain interests that your collectors might have. For instance, I paint seascapes. I often will use hashtags like surfer girl, body surfing, ocean lover, things like that. Then I get a whole new group of people coming in. So play with your hashtags, use them, it'll draw many more people in.
Jean, I also want to say that there are groups that have hashtags. If you use their hashtag, they select art and photography on a regular basis and showcase it on their platform, on their Instagram platform, and they often have millions of followers. And so mine has been selected maybe a dozen times, and that's an incredible way to build your followership as well.
Right. I love it when that happens.
Yeah, it's great. It's a shock.
What I'd like to do for a moment is show you a couple of things because someone was just asking, can we talk about stories and share the hashtags? I would really like to show you my Instagram to show you a few things, how these things work. So I'm going to just take a moment here and share my screen and then connect it with, it's going to take me a second here, but I'm going to share my my Instagram with you. Maybe Doug, you have something to say while I'm doing this. I don't know.
Well, I guess kind of one of the themes that we're focusing on is how to increase your followership. And can people hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. I have found, in fact, I spent time on it today, finding a group of people, maybe it's a dozen people or 15 or 20, and it's with your daily post, you like and comment on each other's. And that not only brings you coverage to their followership, but it's a way to get comments and draw more traffic to your site. So I have about 15 or 20 people around the world from India and France and UK and so on, and we comment on each other's every day. And
Yeah.
that is another way to draw additional traffic to your platform,
Yeah.
your gallery.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, there's an article that is recommended in this handout that I'm going to give you that specifically recommends starting a group of people get together with a group of other people, and you all agree to post every day and like each other's work. And that's a really fantastic way of doing this. One thing I want to show you about having a business, if you have a business account, someone was confused about being able to tell if they have one. You can see on here there's you'll see these options at the bottom. You'll see your a link, a place for a link here. The other thing I want to show you is under when you click on the 3 bars at the top, you'll have all these possibilities pop up. The one that I think is really interesting is insights.
Yes.
Because, and now it's going to pick now to be really slow pulling up. Okay, so it will tell you of your recent posts, how many views your recent posts have gotten. It will also let you see what your reach is, how many people have seen it, how many impressions you had, but also the heaviest days of the week, who's watching, who's opening your Instagram when, actions taken, who's maybe gone to your website clicks, and then under audience, tells you how many followers from the previous week. It shows you how many people followed you or unfollowed you, etc. And then also top locations and age range. You get all this information. It's kind of amazing how much information there is. Okay, so let's go on and talk a little bit about stories, because I know a lot of people are curious about those, or that really threw me for a loop for a little while. The difference between stories and posts. So your feed is these squares that everyone's pretty much familiar with. They are, if you notice, I have 1,400 posts at this point. I post pretty regularly. Today I posted 2 things. I post usually 1 to 3 things a day. And
Wow.
Today I posted my first time lapse, which was kind of fun. But so your posts remain on your feed forever. You can delete them, but if you don't delete them, they stay there forever. Stories, whoops. You can post stories from the little circle up here, but I want to show you where you see the stories. Let's go to the regular Instagram feed. I'm getting confused here. All right, do it this way. So here's my Instagram feed. Whoops. So I'm going to just scroll up, scroll down. So you notice how at the top of your screen, you see all of your friends across here have posted a story. So let's see what my friend Liz has posted. All right. Here's my daughter's posting, just call me Farmer Katie. So what these are is anytime somebody new posts, anytime somebody posts a new story, here's an advertisement. Check out our new post, tap for more. And that would take you to her profile or take you to, so there's a lot you can do with these. Plein air painted in the beautiful flowering trees today, Lisa Rogopoulos. So you can put, this person put a survey. You can ask questions. You can do all sorts of things. You can have I think on mine, I don't know if we can see mine or not. I don't know how you see your own, but if you go to mine, you can see that I posted another time lapse video on there. So they're really, really powerful for I love these pastels, and they're always posting beautiful pictures of more pastels. So the difference between stories and your feed are particular stories only stay on your feed for 24 hours and then they disappear. It's like Snapchat, if you're familiar with that app. So they're definitely a little bit less formal. You can put any picture on there that you want, and you can see this, one thing you can do is say, advertise that there's a new post, and then that person might go, you might go to the posts on their feed. So, and anytime you add, you can add an infinite number of these, although you wouldn't really want to do that. But anytime you add something new to your story, it puts you again at the top of, at the front of the line. So you'll be one of the first ones, and they're fun to look at. They're kind of addictive to look at. So they tend to gather, you tend to attract more viewers, more stories. So they're a lot of fun. You can create a story. Let's see, I'll go back into, back into my my own profile here. So to create a story, you find your, wait a minute, why are we not mirroring here? There we go. It seems to be, there seems to be a little bit of a lag. There we go. So here's my story today. This is interesting because I'm actually, there's a little bit of a lag here, but if I wanted to add something to the story that I have, see this is time lapse, but it's going really, really slow. I guess the connection between my phone and my computer is kind of slow here because the time lapse is going agonizingly slow. Sorry about that. So when you press this button up in the corner, when you press this button, you can add to your story. Let me see, I'll show you again. You see the little plus button right there?
Mhm.
That allows you to, it brings you to your camera, okay? And you can either film something to add, or you can, down at the bottom, you can press that and you will get your camera roll. And then you can add anything from your camera roll. This is the last 24 hours, but then you can also look at all of your albums and go through all of your albums and find anything. I will often go into, say, my gallery. This is Susan Powell's gallery. This is all the artwork I have at her gallery. I might post something from something that I have at her gallery and then say, this is what I've got at this gallery, to do a little ad for the gallery. So, all right, so we'll close out of that. I'm gonna turn that off for a minute and go back to me. All right. So that's really how Stories works. If you think about it as something that it's a great way to do a little studio tour, or like one of those time-lapse videos, or you could do a series of pictures of work in progress. Virtually anything is a great idea for just packing up your car with stuff that you're going to deliver to a gallery, just something to share a little bit of your life with collectors. It's a great way to make things a little more informal. So, and it gets you in front of more eyes. Let's see, why don't we open it up to some questions and then we can move on from there.
Jean, I just want to add a couple of points here. There are tools that you can use to facilitate your posting. And one that I've used for about a year is called Flume. And it helps me size an image, and it uploads the image and helps with comments and location and anything else that you want it to. One that I've heard about recently, and I've just been using it for about 2 weeks, is called Later. Later.com, I think, is incredible because I can schedule maybe an infinite number of postings, and you slide them onto a calendar and a time of day,
Wow.
and you can do a whole month and then forget about it and leave. And it, with this scheduler, it posts your images on the schedule that you've set, and it does sizing for you and a number of other things. So it just takes a lot of the scheduling and worry, and so you can set up. I've just done about 3 days in advance, and you know, and I think that ties into another point, and that is that it's really important for the time of day that you post. And you can find there are also platforms that help you. They analyze your followers and when they're active, and then suggest to you the times of day that it would be most advantageous for you to post. So I have a little note here with every day of the week and what time, because it varies day to day. So I know what time of day I should be scheduling my postings on later.com. And I have found that to be immensely helpful.
So can I add something to that?
Sure.
Because I agree. I actually looked at my just the insights on the business part of Instagram and figured out basically when most of my followers are on there. But I don't always think about it when it's time and would be the most optimal time. And I try not to worry about that too much because I could drive myself crazy. I think what you're suggesting, the scheduling, is great. And for some people that works really well. I don't tend to plan out things way in advance. And so preparing stuff in advance isn't going to work for me. But there's, I think, I guess what my message is to, with Instagram, with really any social media, do what feels comfortable for you, because if planning those things out in advance, that's a fantastic tool if it's going to help you and make it easier for you to manage doing this kind of thing. But don't feel like you have to, because if it's going to make it easier to just, let me do a post and throw it up there, then do that, because that's what I've always done, and that's worked really well for me too. So you have to just kind of do whatever is you're most comfortable with, because this is something that you got it.
However, my analytics on Instagram tell me that on Thursday, my followers are most active at 6:30 in the morning. Well,
Wow.
I'm usually not up at 6:30, so I schedule in advance to have one of my, do an upload at 6:30 a.m. And it's when I get up at 7:30, I, have several hundred followers or likes. So it's very helpful.
Yeah, that's really cool. So I noticed here, Margaret Sheldon comments that you can also use Linktree for multiple links. Margaret, I just want to point out that one of the links that I put on this forum is the fantastic podcast that you do with Leslie Seda, the Artist Helping Artists, which I listen to really frequently, and a lot of what I learned about Instagram was from listening to Artists Helping Artists, because you guys have done so many on Instagram, and you guys are so good at that. I've learned so much from listening to that.
Now I have to turn my picture on and say thank you.
Yes. It's been wonderful.
Good to hear.
Yeah. So I would recommend that to everybody. I don't know, you've done countless shows on Instagram.
Countless.
Yes.
And some of the information, honestly, is probably a little old now. I mean, it's time to refresh, because as you know, everything's changing. I think one of the things that it's important for everyone to keep their eye on is, I too have a business account, but there is this fear that, Facebook owns Instagram, and just as Facebook charges for ads, we all know the day is coming when Instagram will do the same. So I would just underscore the importance for everyone to really keep a good email list. It's your only contact, and anything that you can do to get those email addresses is well worth it, because Facebook, it happened in, a day that everything changed. And I'm not saying it will happen on Instagram, but it could.
Yeah.
So I think everyone should really put energy into their email list.
That's a really good point.
Good
Yeah.
point.
Really true. Yeah.
If that comment was the quality of what you're really experiencing, yes.
Yeah.
I really do. And I'll tell you why.
Someone's not muted.
Get the email addresses. That's helpful.
So I'm looking at some of the other questions that are on here. Dave, you asked if you can convert your personal account to business, or do you need to create a new business account? You can convert your personal account to a business
Right,
account.
you can.
Yeah.
Do not do that.
And Candace asked if stories have hashtags. And yes, story, you can hashtag stories. You can also put you can also tag story. You can tag people in stories, and that's one of the most powerful ways of using stories. Is you tag somebody else in a story, because if you tag somebody else, like for instance, let's say a gallery sells a piece of art for me, I could post the piece of art and say thank you at Susan Powell Fine Art for selling my artwork today. You make this possible for me to do this. Then she could take that story and share it to her. She could also she'll get a little notice saying that Jeannie Roger-Smith mentioned you, and then she could all she has to do is share this to your stories. She just presses one button, or she just says, look what's going home to a new collector or something. So it's very easy to do that, but you have to tag people so that they know that that they're being talked about and mentioned. It's really powerful to tag people. Tag is with a little the @ and then their name. That's their handle. So you can use all sorts of links and things, and they're very powerful. Go ahead, Margaret, you're dying to say something. Go ahead.
There's a really great trick, which is that you can load up an image of yours with a few hashtags. When you type it in, as you edit your image to post to your story, you can choose the color ink, right, that you want those letters to appear in so that it will read against your background. Well, the trick is if you go to the ink blotter, write your hashtags, drag them into, let's say behind Susan, there's a blue sky. You can drag it to the sky, it disappears, but it still generates all the traffic you're looking for. In other words, it doesn't have to stand out and be in red. It just has to be there. And it will still feed all of those hashtags. It's amazing. I think it's the coolest trick on there. I'll be quiet now.
That's great. That's great.
I do a slight level of this on a daily basis.
Okay. So let's take another question. Janet asks, tell us more about time lapse. I just did my first time lapse today. So easy. You just set up your camera, aim it at make sure that your camera is aimed correctly to film, and then you hit time lapse, and then you go ahead and paint. You just paint away, and then you stop, and then you turn off time lapse, and you're done. And it's ready to go. It just paints for you. It's so cool. It works really well.
Great thing.
So I mean, I haven't done it because I thought it was this big complicated thing. It's not. It's very easy. So it's a really nice way to get a very compact video. And the bonus, you don't have to talk while you're painting. You just paint.
Jean, I did notice a lot of questions about business accounts. A lot of people are wondering how you convert business accounts or convert a personal account to a business account, and does that affect your current followers? Like, will you lose followers?
No,
it's converting.
You don't. It's the same account. It just changes it. You're just changing it to a business account. And honestly, I don't know that much about the technical side of that, but I know it's very simple. And because I did it in like 5 seconds, it really wasn't that hard to do. It can't be. I mean, I'm not a genius at this thing. So I would recommend that you just Google it, and they'll give you step-by-step instructions, because it's something that's pretty simple to do. I wouldn't be afraid of doing it. I think it's really easy. So, yeah. Let's see. Are there any other? I don't think
I have them written down. Just a few more if we want to go over them. But someone asked, when you talk about posting daily or more often than once a day,
Yeah.
Was that in reference to your physical posts, like on your feed,
Oh.
or was that also talking about stories, or both?
Yes. So yeah, that was a good question. So that's the feed. That's the physical, the actual feed, the permanent feed. And so I usually post 1 to 3 times on the physical feed. And to be perfectly honest, 2 or 3, 2 really is I tend to do better as far as keeping up a consistent following of people if I'm doing 2 than if I'm doing 1. And although sometimes I just don't, sometimes I'll take time off and I won't do it. And if I skip it for a day or 2, it's no big deal. I'm not going to worry about it that much. I'm not chained to this thing. I have to take time, I have to take breaks. So it's not that big of a deal. I don't stress over it, in other words. It's more, I find it fun and interesting. And but I try not to forget about it completely, because you don't want to, we were talking, Doug and I, we were talking about, it's like a garden that you have to tend. And if you neglect it for a year, it will probably die, right? But if you keep just feeding it a little bit here and there, it'll keep growing. So anyway,
I have found a remarkable relationship between the number of postings that I do and the kind of followership that I have. I mean, it's really quite incredible. So when I do maybe 2, sometimes 3 postings in a day, the activity just increases, maybe not exponentially, but it is quite remarkable. And then when I get lazy or just I'm doing something else, or I don't feel like it, you see it in people leaving, as followers, or you have significantly fewer likes. So you do have to tend it on a daily basis if you want it to be a viable business tool.
So here's another thing. People are asking, how do you come up with stuff where are you going to get all these posts from? What do you post? How do you have enough to post multiple times per day? Jed asks. Are they work in progress photos? Sometimes they are work in progress photos, but often they're not. So I've got some post ideas here. You can post new finished work, obviously. If you do post new finished work, one thing I would strongly recommend you consider doing is include a brief story, a sentence or 2 on the story behind the piece. Get people involved and interested in why you painted this. So you're not just saying, here's my artwork, but get them to know you a little bit. Tell them a little bit about where the piece came from. And so you're drawing them in, because it's all about people getting to know each other and getting to know and understand and want to know more about you. So there's that. A process demo. So you could have several shots together leading up to, so you stack them all in the same post. So I would maybe have the first shot is the finished piece, and then have several, maybe the sketch leading up to it with some notes on your process. A studio shot or a little video. And I will say videos are, and I should have mentioned this to begin with, but videos, oh my gosh, it's unbelievable how much more play video gets than still pictures of almost anything. Some of my best and most popular posts have been me just crushing up pastels with a mortar and pestle. People love to watch that. They love
That was a very soothing video.
So,
or you
just,
frolicking in the waves
ahead.
on the beach.
No, those are not videos. Those are still shots.
Another question too. I thought this was an interesting question. Someone asked, how do you figure out what times of day are best to post?
So when I was showing you on my phone, if you go in the analytics section in the business, under insights, if you look under audience, it'll tell you what days of the week are busiest, and then it actually gives you a time graph of when is the heaviest traffic on your Instagram site, and that's how you figure it out. It's right there in your insights. Somebody else asked, so you were asking about how often would you post in stories? That was one of the other questions. And I'm not as consistent with that, although I have found it to be really powerful. It's not something that comes as naturally to me, so I don't always think to do it, but it's probably a good thing to do every day. My kids do it every day. It's definitely a powerful thing and a more popular thing with younger people. I think it's been, the older you are, the fewer people post the stories, but it's really popular. The more you do that, the better your Instagram's going to be, the better your presence will be. So the more often you can do it, the better. Especially, like I said, because then you can link to other things. I just had an opening in May 1st, and I was able to link people directly to the online exhibition. So that's a really nice feature. If you have, if you get, you have to have, I think, minimum 10,000 followers to be able to do that. So that's a good reason to want to get to 10,000 followers. Let's see what else. If you post a few times a day, is it best to space them out? That's a really good question. I space them out usually, just because then it generates more interest, and some people that may not have seen that first post or weren't on it then might go back and notice that one too. So I like to space them out every couple of hours.
Yeah, when I started posting multiple
It's a marketing idea.
posts in a day, I worried about some cannibalizing, about, am I going to lose likes because I put them, 2 or 3 in a day? And in fact, it did just the opposite. But I do one early in the morning and then in the evening. And you also have to see, as you've said, Jean, where are your followers? So I have 10% of my followers are in France. So I think about the fact that they're 5 or 6 hours ahead, and they're going to be active on Instagram at a different time of day than I am here. So I try to think about that as well.
Whole day. These are the good ones. The nuances, like the time zones.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, I like getting up in the morning and looking at who's been commenting overnight, because there's people all over the world that are doing this. So a couple of people. So one thing Janet asked, doesn't multiple posts saturate? Don't people get annoyed? And I know that's something that people worry about. That I don't think you need to be concerned about that. If you're not, I mean, if you start, what I would avoid doing, if you have maybe 10 or 20 posts that you have ready to go, don't post them all on one day.
Mhm.
Spread them out, do 2 a day so I would say, yeah, don't overwhelm somebody's feed, especially if you've got people following you who may only follow 10 people. Then it's going to be all Janet all the time. You want to spread it out a little bit, but I think 2 or 3 is perfectly reasonable in a day. It's not too many. I mean, that seems to be the consensus of.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
What is a good length for videos? I'm glad you asked that, because the Instagram feed, the video limit is 1 minute, but it's been really nice lately. They've just changed the way they've done things. I've noticed that you can, and Margaret probably knows more about this than I do, but if you do a video, if you post a video and it's more than a minute, they give you the option of posting it as IGTV, Instagram TV, which is incredibly popular. And you can post it as both, and just the first minute will be on your feed, and the rest of it will be on and the whole thing will be on Instagram TV. And then people watching your feed will get a little message saying, would you like to keep watching this?
Wow.
And
Yeah,
that's really pretty nice.
Last night I
So,
watched
I
a
don't-
1 hour
I think
presentation by an artist in Amsterdam on IGTV.
Really?
Yeah, he went on for an hour and it was fantastic.
I didn't know you could do it for that long. Wow.
Yep, he did.
So what are your thoughts about responding to comments on your posts? So glad Ginny asked that question. I always respond. I mean, I haven't gotten to the point where I've got so many that I can't respond, but I feel like that is why it keeps growing, because I'm really happy that people are taking time to engage with me, and I want to engage back with them. So if somebody's just sending me a pile of emojis, I'll just send them a little smile back. If they're actually saying something, I will respond back with words. So, but I always try to respond. And honestly, the algorithm for Instagram is such that if you've just posted something, you want to be paying attention for the next 15 minutes or so, because that is a critical time, and that kind of signals to the algorithm, ooh, this is a hot post, this is an important post. And that, so if people are commenting, you comment right back, and it increases the importance of the post, and it'll get seen by a lot more people. So that's a good time to be paying attention if you can. If not, don't worry about it. But if you can, then do. And but I really try to look back and comment and respond to comments whenever I can.
I absolutely agree.
Yeah. Let's see. Matt says, I only get annoyed by people who obviously push sales. Yeah, good point. It's not really a place to be trying to sell stuff. It's just you're sharing stuff, you're telling. That's why I said when you're posting new work, if you want to tell a story about it, great if somebody asks you about, can I buy this? But that's not really the point of Instagram. It's not meant as a sales platform. The one exception to that would be this, I don't know if any of you have seen the artist support pledge that's been going on Instagram, where people are selling small works as part of this a response to the pandemic to help other artists. It's, this artists are selling, I think there's a limit of $200. And so people are posting those periodically. So that is specifically for an art for sale thing, but that's been on Instagram the last month or so. But typically that's not the aim of Instagram at all. So, and I think it strikes the wrong note if you push that. It really does. So that doesn't mean that you don't get sales through people inquiring, and you certainly can be open to it. And you can say things are available, but it's just not, that's not your main, you don't want to sound like you're pushing. So let's see, what else do we have here? Is there a way to push your post towards a more international audience?
No.
I don't know how you can control it.
You can't. You can't.
Well, the only way you could do it is maybe by actively seeking out international artists and commenting on their stuff, because then you'll be more visible to them. You'll be more visible on an international field, and then they'll be noticing what you're doing. So the quality of your posts, I mean, I don't know about you, but I notice when people make good, intelligent comments, I think, well, who's that? And then I look up their work. So, it catches my eye when somebody's consistently making interesting comments. So if you start to do that, then you'll catch somebody else's eye, and you'll, so that's one way of doing it. That's how you get to know people. I've gotten to know people on Instagram. So, but yeah, no, you really can't control who's watching. Let's see. Do I respond to every Facebook post? Yeah, pretty much. I try to. I get a little confused sometimes because you get messages on all these different things, and then I see the message. If I can't respond to it right away, it takes me 10 minutes to figure out where the message was sent. Whether it's Facebook pages or Facebook Direct or Instagram or direct message, it's just can be hard to find stuff sometimes. But I really do try to respond with at least a like of whatever the comment was, if not a comment back. Let's see. How do you control the length of time-lapse video? I have no idea yet. I haven't figured that out since I just did the first one today. Does anybody else know the answer to that question? Okay. Don't know. Sorry, Terry.
I've time lapse, and you can actually do it. You can do time lapse and just upload it separately. You don't need to do it within Instagram. So you just do it as a movie.
Yeah.
It's just automatic. It's just however long you do it, and then you could probably bring it into iMovie, and you can shorten it down if you wanted to.
Right. Yeah, I didn't do it in Instagram. I did it on my phone, and then uploaded it.
Yeah, it's however long you work. That's the length, but you can shorten it down within iMovie. You can condense it.
You can condense it or, okay, all right.
I've done that.
Yeah.
You just go and then, because in the beginning part, you probably want
Okay.
to cut the beginning part of it out. So you just have it sectioned off.
Okay. So this is interesting questions about following, the etiquette of following people. So Barbara asked, should you follow someone who follows you? And then Jenny said, when someone follows you, how do you decide about following them back or not? What are the pros and cons of following others? So I would say, and this is just my opinion, but you do not have to follow back everyone who follows you. Because if you're looking to really grow your Instagram, I mean, you can, and if it's people you know, definitely follow them back. But if you're growing and you have, say, 30,000 followers, you don't want 30,000 people on your feed. You're never going to be able to see the people whose stuff you really want to see. So the feed that you're following is curated. It's stuff that you want to see. So, you have to think about, you're putting out artwork. It is a social media, but at the same time, you're doing this because you are an art figure. You are someone who's coming to see your art. That doesn't mean that you want to see everybody else's art. There may be people who are just fans of yours. It doesn't mean you want to see what they're doing. Not necessarily. You don't have to follow everyone. Now,
I've also noticed that there's almost an inverse relationship between the kind of success and reputation and international renown of an artist or a photographer and the number of people they're following. They might have 1 million followers, but they're following 200 people.
Yeah.
My mentor is Steve McCurry, and he has 2.1 million followers, and he follows about 140 people. So and people look at that actually.
Yeah. I
do. I look, do I want to follow this person who has 1,500 postings and 32 followers? Probably not.
Right. Exactly. Somebody asks, Jed asks, Andrea asked, how many people do we each follow? I think I'm following about 900 people right now. And I have no idea how it got so big. It's a lot of people to be following, but I like being able to open up my Instagram and look through and be inspired and see all sorts of interesting things. But I feel like with 900, I'm definitely missing stuff that I wish I were seeing. So it's probably more than I should right now.
On the other hand, Jean, this could be all consuming.
Well, it could, yeah. I mean,
we could
but I don't, yeah, I try not to spend that much time. So that might be another question. I don't know. How much time do you actually spend doing this? I spend on the posts themselves. It probably takes me 20 minutes a day, 10 minutes to 20 minutes a day. And then, and then following up depending on, I maybe spend 45 minutes a day on this total, something like that.
Yeah, I was going to say 45 minutes as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's
but I have a folder on my desktop of work that I've edited and sized and cropped and ready to be, so that it's always kind of there for me to draw on when I want to post.
Yeah, that's great. And remember, I mean, I've actually in the middle of winter when I don't have any artwork, maybe that I'm producing that I want to that I'm ready to show new work, I go through and I look at work that I have maybe sitting in a gallery that's not even open. So maybe my gallery on the Cape that's not even showing any work in January because there's nobody there. And I will pull it up and say, and use that. And I've actually sold work that way through a gallery in January by just posting stuff online because people are dying to look at beaches in January. So you can pull up old stuff pull up something that no one's seen in a while. Just because you posted it 2 years ago doesn't mean anyone's going to remember it. So you can recycle stuff. You can use old work. And the other thing you can do is if you have a big piece that you're working on and you're not sure you want everybody to see it because you're saving it for a competition or for whatever reason, zoom in and give people a sneak peek of a teeny little piece of it, a little detail of it. because people love to see up close little details of things, and then it gives this aura of mystery, and then you're not having to reveal the whole piece. So that's kind of a fun post too.
There's another trick that I've read about recently and just begun to use, and that is asking followers questions in your posting. Say, I'm posting 2 images here, and I'd really be interested in which one you think is you prefer, or asking questions about other dimensions of the piece. And so you're drawing them in by asking questions, and it's amazing how many people respond.
Somebody else here is asking, that's a really good thing about the questions. I think you're absolutely right about that. I've noticed the same thing. It's starting conversations with people. Can you post from your Mac or only your phone? I think you can only post from your phone. It is really meant to be a phone app.
No.
Has it changed?
You can. I looked up on YouTube how to post from my Mac. And so there's a way, so I do it now. So there's a way that you can trick the Mac into thinking that it's an iPhone. And it's very simple, but I would just urge people to Google, how do I post to Instagram from my Mac? And it's very simple.
Somebody just pointed out that that you asked for title suggestions. I've done that. I've gotten some really good titles by asking people, and I've actually written them down. And even if they weren't right for that particular one, you know how hard it is to find 350 wave titles. So I keep every single one for future use. So, by the way, also Janet said, so there's no shame in saying it's old work. No, I never say it's old work. I just describe the work. Why would you want to say it was old work? No.
Oh, the other thing that we haven't mentioned, Jean, is how important captions are, or titles. And I Google quotes for the theme. I posted an image the other day of 2 little girls with their arms around each other, and so I Googled children's friendship, and I got something by Mahatma Gandhi or something. And so, and people love quotes that really fit with the image or the artwork or the piece that you're showing, you're posting.
Right. Yeah. So another example of a way to make an older piece fresh would be, just yesterday was a gray, gross day, or the day before, I'm losing track of the days, but I posted red geraniums that I painted last May, a year ago. They've been sitting in a gallery for I don't know, 8 months or so. And so I just said fresh geraniums to brighten up your gray day or something like that. Didn't have to explain that they were painted last year, I just, and they went, and that was the top, the top viewed one for this week. People really liked seeing, people love the color red. The red just really stands out. That always gets a lot of views whenever I post anything red. It's kind of interesting, but so that's, you just find a way to make it a story. Everything has a story. So, all right, anything else? So we're just past 7 o'clock. We were pretty good getting this in an hour.
I just saw a question on the screen that says, what's Doug's IG handle?
Yeah.
It's Doug Adams Photography.
Oh, on Instagram, there's a creative category and a business category within the professional accounts. When I set it up, there was only business. But I would use creator, I think. I guess, yeah, I don't know. If I had the choice now, I'd use creator, but it was just setting up a business account. So as long as it's a business account, I think they probably have the same, it's the same features for both, or for all of those. Okay, I think we're done, unless anybody has any other questions.
Yes, I do. Question.
Oh, Sally, you're muted again.
Am I muted?
No, you're good now.
Okay, I got it backwards. I have a question about the size of work. And there was something else I noticed someone asked about copywriting the work.
So what's the question? So would you worry about copywriting it? I don't worry about copywriting
No,
it.
no.
Okay. What about the size? What sizes do you recommend?
Instagram is set up to show square images.
Okay.
So if you're submitting or uploading a narrow long image, it's going to be cut off.
Okay.
So but I use a scheduler and it tells me, it says this image is too large for Instagram, but err on the side of going towards square. Is that consistent with other people's experience?
I meant in terms of the pixels.
Yeah, that's what yeah.
Okay.
Jean, is that your experience?
Yeah. So let's see. I haven't ever really thought at all as I'm uploading stuff to Instagram about what size it is going in. But as far as the orientation or the shape of the painting, sometimes if things are long and narrow or very, very long either direction, I've had to photograph it with a little bit of white on either side or crop it with white on either side so it's not so long and narrow or it won't accommate really, really drastically skinny things.
I do have a little
in
tip.
Instagram, there's a little arrow. It'll resize it if you have a horizontal or a vertical.
Mm-hmm.
In the lower left-hand corner, there's an arrow you can click, and it'll actually bring the whole actual size into that square.
Oh, that's good to know. That's great.
And
I never knew
one
that. Thank you.
small thing that I learned at a
Cool.
seminar I went to a really long time ago is people suggest posting pictures that are longer, like this way, rather than, horizontally. So if it's longer vertically, it takes up more of people's phone screens.
Yeah.
So they're more likely to interact with it because it's taking up their entire screen. They can't see the next image as easily. So they're just looking at your image.
Yep. Not so great for landscape painters.
No,
but-
not so great for
No, it's not.
that.
That's true. Okay, can you paste a group of hashtags? She's suggesting. Or do you have to select? Oh, so what I do for hashtags, Candace was asking, can you paste a group of hashtags or do you have to
Yeah, or you have to select each one.
All right, so what I'm gonna do is I am gonna show you, I'm gonna just take my, what I do is in my notes on my computer, and it's also the same notes that I have on my phone, I am gonna just copy and paste them for you right now into the chat. So you can see, because I just copy and paste them. So I have one set that I use for winter paintings. Did it show up yet? Let's see.
No.
No.
All right, wait a minute.
But the hashtag
Marker
works
one.
the same way if you pasted it instead of selecting it from a column where it shows, there are over 1,000 people that use this hashtag.
Right, right.
It's okay to paste because I get really tired of typing all those hashtags.
Oh yeah, yeah. So there you go. You can see. I just cut and paste that
Right.
the whole thing, and I put it at the bottom of whatever I write. I just have like the top thing is what is basically what I use for any seascape painting, and then I might change it a little bit.
Right.
If it's a winterscape, I use the bottom one.
Okay.
It just saves me redoing it every time. Yep.
Thank you.
Otherwise, it would drive me crazy. It would, yeah.
It drives me crazy.
Right. So, yeah. Okay. So I think we're about done.
There's also programs that will save your hashtags. And so when you go to upload and I'll put in National Geographic, Nat Geo photo, then it goes to the ones you've used previously, and it'll give you all of the ones you've used previously that are close to that, and you just slide them over or click on them. So that's in Flume, which is incredibly handy.
Are those expensive programs?
Free.
Yeah. Are they free? Okay.
Flume is free. Although there's like
And
anything.
later.com is free also?
What is?
Later.com.
Later, with both of those, it's Candace, right?
Yes.
With both of those, it's for, I use their free versions, but of course they both have upgradable to what they call Prime, but I don't think it's worth it. And I'm perfectly satisfied with both Flume and later.com with using their free tools.
That's good to know. I'll look into it.
Great.
So just a couple of more questions here. Susan Powell, you were asking, so that painting that sold today that I said, this painting sold today, she wants to know, is there a way to repost my post onto your feed? And there are various programs for doing that. There's not really an easy way to repost a post. There's an easy way to repost a story, but reposting a post, you copy somebody's post and you put it onto a clipboard and into a repost app or a repost program. So that's a little bit harder to do. It's not just like a one-step or a one-click thing. Like you can't just repost. I think Instagram has made it hard to do that for some reason. So you'd have to get a repost program of some sort to do that. So you can't just share somebody's post the way you can share a post in Facebook. It doesn't work that way. So, and let's see, Ginny asked about hashtags being, is there a difference if the hashtags are in sequence or on separate lines? No, you can, it just means you have to go and hit return to get them on separate lines. So you could do either one. So, okay. Well, good. Well, thanks everybody. We appreciate your sticking around for this.
We do.
Thank you very much, both of you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Presentation. And I want you to know that Paige has been using Later since she arrived at the gallery. I mean,
oh, great.
It's
So was I
wonderful.
right?
Yeah.
a week in advance so that we get a varied menu of what's going on in the gallery. And it's really, really helpful, isn't it, Paige?
It's wonderful. We do have the paid version just so we can schedule more posts because we try to do 2 to 3 a day. And that even gives you popular hashtag suggestions, both general and niche. Later is amazing. I mean, if you really want to invest the time in it, it is a really helpful tool. It gives you very specific analytics, but I also think the business Instagram does a lot of similar things like Jean was saying with showing you good times to post and everything like that. But if you're interested, I definitely recommend checking out later.com.
I also think, Paige, that, I mean, Instagram changes over time, both intentionally because they want to keep, making it more and more difficult, I think, for security purposes and for competitive purposes. But later.com, I think I've read that it has more engineers and software people kind of working almost with Instagram.
That does not surprise me.
And so it is the most reliable and I think evolving platform to use.
Definitely.
So the last thing I would say is just in that, if you remember, there's an attachment at the very beginning of the chat that you can still download that has a really nice article called The Ultimate Guide to Marketing Your Art on Instagram. It's got some great, just kind of step-by-step tips that are a little bit better organized than the things that I put together for you. I tried, but this guy's really a marketing expert. And so I would definitely recommend that. And then, like I mentioned before, that Leslie Seda and Margaret Shelton's podcasts, which there's many of them that are on Instagram. So you probably want to check both of those out. And there's also a link there to an article on why Instagram stories are super powerful. So check out all of those.
care.
Thank you.
Thank you again.
Absolutely.
If you have a topic that you would really like to have presented in a similar fashion, the gallery would be delighted to do it. So let us know, shoot us an email. If you're doing a special project like that Artist Relief, that's awesome. But you know, we can schedule these once a month or something like we did with the Artist Exchange, but it's important that we have visible contact, we can talk with one another, and
Yep.
of
For
issues
sure.
that really matter as we adapt to all the changes we're adapting to.
Yeah. It was really great to see everyone.
Yeah, it's really good.
Super
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
I have a quick
Thank you,
Zoom
Jean.
question.
Thank you, Doug. Thank you, Paige.
Thank
Awesome.
you,
Thank
Paige.
you all.
Thank
Yeah.
you,
Thank you,
everybody.
everyone. Thank you.
Thank
Appreciate
you one
it.
and
It was
all.
great.
Thank you very much.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
Thank
everybody.
you.